Right, morning, everyone. So, life skills, Lee, what are they? Do we need them? No? How do we teach them? Can we? I'm not too sure. You better tell us what you think.
Well, such profound questions for a Tuesday morning. Thank you, Ivan. So, do we need life skills? I would hope we do, because life has to be lived, and certain skills would be helpful. Um, can we teach them? That's the mystery. uh, so, I think there are many life skills, obviously, and so each of us can get a turn just to say what you think is the most important. For me, I think one of the most important life skills, certainly one that I've had to learn, and I've seen the ramifications of other people not having this skill over and over and over again, is being able to have difficult conversations, is being able to raise issues, concerns, frustrations with somebody else without it spiraling into all manner of bad things, from just a damaged relationship. When I say just a damaged relationship, to actually a ripple effect in a whole organization. Because this person can't speak to this person, so they speak to somebody else who speaks to somebody else, and then it builds in this wave of so-and-so said so-and-so said so-and-so, and it actually could have been addressed face to face. So that's one of the life skills that I think is essential. The other is, and I say this with a little bit of caution, and it shows where my head is in pandemic times. In my needing a break, I've been watching Queer Eye. So for those of you who don't, yes, Trevor's face. For those of you who don't know it, 5 gay guys with various different talents do makeovers for many men, actually. So it's quite fun. And they do the hair and the house and the food and various other things. But what I've seen, what is the difference? So they're with this person for a week. So what is the difference between, pre-Queer Eye or Fab 5 and post-Fab 5? And 9 times out of 10, it's confidence. I feel down on myself, so I look down, so I don't believe in myself. I don't trust that I can do anything. My dreams are shattered around me. I'm a nobody. And they zhuzh this person up. They say, you are amazing. Look at how incredible you are. You just, and then their shoulders go back. They look up and they say, wow, I'm a person. And just that bit of confidence somehow I think makes all the difference in the world. And then the last thing that I want to say is a very practical thing, and it may be outdated now, but it comes from my then 85-year-old father-in-law, whose wife died after nearly 60 years of marriage and had never learned to cook, and is still living today. Fortunately, he now has somebody to look after him and care for him who can cook for him. But in those early days, a year or two before he got remarried, by the way, 85, got remarried, he couldn't cook. And so I think that's an essential life skill, is just to learn how to cook. So those are my 3. What are yours?
Great, thanks, Lisa. I'm a little bit worried about your recipe. Chinese whispers, broken telephones, and makeup. So it's all it's all a little bit concerning that those are your key life skills. So yeah, we better watch out for that one, Trevor. So yeah, let's get across to you first, Trevor.
No, man, I was taking notes here, and I think Lee raised the first point. Can we teach life skills? And I wrote the answer immediately, no. So I think life skills can only really be shared, which is interesting. It's about the power of influence, and can influence be forced upon people, Yes, it can, but that's not the type of influence that I'm interested in. It's a role modeling. What sort of role model are you? And how does that rub off onto other individuals? And do you do it deliberately? Well, I'll show you some sort of history that I dug out of the shelves here just now. But I think Viv Brown had the training of life skills absolutely spot on. He said it was about three things, Lee. And sex, drugs, and rock and roll. If life skills go all the way back to that. And if I think about my school days, man, we had really progressive liberal teachers that were trying to introduce this in the late 60s. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, they were helped by Jesus Christ Superstar. Oh, RE was important as well, but that fitted into rock and roll. So Jesus Christ Superstar, it was banned in the country, as was the other guy. What was his name? I'll get him. And we used to listen to this during RE because it was a great way to introduce a bunch of reprobates into what Jesus Christ was all about. And it's still one of the greatest soundtracks that I believe is around. And then what else? Drugs. We had sex education as well. I think these things are all the most basic. And then I recall when I took on the Academy of Learning, one of the biggest challenges that we had was progressive individuals were calling for life skills in schools. Now, I took on that Academy of Learning, I think, 1987, 88. Then life skills was a no-no subject completely. Schools wouldn't actually teach it to the kids. We were turning around and saying, but kids needed life skills. Life skills training only really came in, I would say about 10, maximum 15 years ago. So it was a very late starter in public schools as far as I'm concerned. And then as I was thinking about it, when I took on the Academy of Learning, I don't know if you can see that. Can you read that from your side? I developed a program called Winning Ways. So maybe Lee, Ivan, this is where it all started beginning. We had a whole range of really smart people that were doing lectures and seminars. And I wanted to make certain that people started becoming aware of what life skills were all about. And if you want to know what legacy is, I left a little legacy in there. I don't know if you recognize that picture. Can you see it? And maybe that was the forerunner of My Dream Island and It's So Simple. In fact, I designed the It's So Simple of that guy. And that was me actually going out there, getting pictures so that people could start converting words into pictures in their mind because people weren't thinking in pictures. And so I started putting it into training programs. And here was the training program, and it became a life skills training program. So this we sent out at the beginning of 1989. It says your very own Winning Ways personal development program. And I was quite interested. Lesson 1, aims and goals in life. Lesson 2, your attitude to life. Lesson 3, winners and losers. Lesson 4, communication. Lesson 5, non-verbal communication and rapport. Lesson 6, transactional analysis. Lesson 7, strokes and first encounters. Lesson 8, assertive behavior. And then went on to stress, the brain, time management, providing excellent service, ongoing education, and national training centers. Obviously, I was using it to actually promote all of our new franchise operations. Now, the giggle about this was the title Winning Ways was suddenly picked up by members of the JSE, and this group here wrote their book called The Winning Way, Lessons from Super Performing South African Companies just on a year later. And I just wonder if it's in the ether that when you put out ideas, other people actually pick them up and start running with them. So that's my thoughts on on life skills, today, I think kids get access to life skills anytime they want. But the problem with kids like Lee is that they go picking up strange videos and programs. I'm watching Go and Wrestle Mania with Ed the accountant and make certain we beat. No, I'm not. There's a ton of influences out there. And I think what we have to do is just try and guide people along, if they're your kids, the sort of direction you want to go. But I've noticed with mine, they were so well trained to be thought leaders of their own futures that anything that I suggest to them, they flip it and go completely the opposite direction. So that's my background.
Who would have thunk it? Yeah.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? I wrote that in here too. No, I didn't. Okay.
That's a whole nother story. Yeah. Okay. So great. Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, I was starting to wonder whether you were going to bring any life skills into that discussion, but you had to read it out of a book, so yeah, we just had to. Yeah. All right. So Jasper, let's come across to you next.
Morning. Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic. So it leads on from where I left off yesterday to say, what is your legacy and what is it that you really would like to leave behind? But I agree with Trevor. It's not something that you can enforce on anyone. It's the old saying of, if the student is not ready, it doesn't matter what you teach him. And for most of my own development, personal growth happened after I was married, and we started to build a life together. And I realized now we need to take on a new business for Helen initially. But that exposure to the New Life group and the thinking and like that, for the first 9 years, I almost resisted it because I didn't feel myself being part of that. And it's okay for others, but not for me. And it was only 9 years into the program that I had a bit of a Damascus moment. And I realized, listen, I have to just throw everything out that I thought I was and thinking because it's not working for me. And then once I made the decision and I became open to learn, that's when I started to become like a sponge and absorb a whole lot of things. So what are the things that I personally believe that if my children ask me, I would certainly want to nudge them along these lines. And I think Lee touched on it in her opening session, but the first thing would be people skills. Learn how to relate to people, and that would cover things like body language, you know, how you walk and look and project yourself, voice, how you use your voice. Because sometimes just listening to a person, you already irritate me just by, you know, the sound of his voice, but he doesn't know that he's irritating. Space. Some people don't know about personal space and they invade your personal space like Trevor did with me there in at the gym way back. And listen, it comes to this whole thing of how do you make friends? Ask questions, leading questions, then listen and, you know, respond on it. So that's people skills, and that can develop into a whole interesting topic. Then I would say the power of networks, because going into the future, you don't have enough time left in your own life to learn everything, but surround yourself and get into networks with the right people who somewhere in that network, people got the eye on the ball on an aspect of the future and the economy. And at least then you will be within that circle, one of the first people to know if something is appearing on the horizon. Then I think all the, like Trevor said, the kids will flip what you tell them and do the opposite. But I think the most difficult thing for any person is to find his purpose. And we make it such a big issue and an etheric issue that people don't even know where to start. And I think as an outsider, you know, we're sometimes quicker to read a person's skills and talent and gifts. And if we can just relay it back to him and to say, you really got a talent and a skill in this area, and encourage them to pursue their talents and gifts and skills instead of just trying to run after money and becoming an employee somewhere. And then financial literacy is a big one on my books because people don't know how to work with money, and will bring in stewardship, that whatever you do is not for consumption, but you're a steward. And then belief systems. So without necessarily going on a tangent with religion and stuff like that, I believe all of us got that spirit in us, that searching to be reconnected with our Creator. But many of the religions and things out there just confound the issue and make it difficult to understand. So I believe it's a very personal thing. But challenge people to say, listen, whatever you believe, is it enabling you or disabling you? And guide people along the lines. And then the last thing I would certainly make part of my transfer of life skills is to teach people how to try and read the future trends. But by all means, do what you can yourself, but don't believe what you see in the media. Read between the lines and get around you like-minded thinkers who can try and help you read the future. Because I think that's the big difference between people who are prepared for the future and have already taken advantage of it, and the rest of the people who, I think Trevor said at one of his things, that three kinds of people. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. Yeah, I'll leave it with those few skills.
Thanks, Jasper. And are you selling those crystal balls of yours that allow us to see into the future? So I would love to have one or two of those hanging around, so we could have forecast what was actually going to happen on the 26th of March. Yeah, interesting one. So Stella, let's get across to you next.
Thanks, thanks, Ivan. Yes, I agree with you guys that's spoken already, especially you, Jasper. So the first thing that I think is a very important life skill is to grow your intellectual mind over your emotional mind. So that helps for concentration. So if your emotions is overclouding your intellectual mind, you're not able to concentrate effectively. And if you can't concentrate, then you're not in the moment. So to be able to develop that mind, your objective mind over your emotional mind, a method is to keep on questioning what you're doing, why you're doing it, what is the reason why you're reacting this way. So that's a topic on its own that one can explore a lot more. Just another thing that I think I've seen it now, my children, is the skill of taking responsibility and accountability. And I think that is something that you also learn. Specifically, talking about my children, my daughter was, I think, in standard 5, the old standard 5, grade 7, and my son 2 years younger when I started studying. And from the time they went to high school, I was not, I didn't have the time because I was studying. I was never involved in their schoolwork. So they had to take responsibility for their schoolwork. So I had a friend of mine, and she would say, oh, we are busy working on this task for school project that needs to be in. And I didn't even know about it because it sounds terrible that I wasn't involved in my children's lives, but the thing is I was working and studying, and they had to just do what they needed to do. So throughout high school, I never was involved with their school, helping them doing projects or whatever. And today, at the age of 24, daughter went overseas, and she can do her own thing. She's learned how to take responsibility for her actions and to make things happen for herself. My son bought a house at the age of 24, is living on his own, not dependent on the parents, both of my kids. So I think that's a very essential life skill that one can actually teach, Trevor. I think that you can learn your children. Maybe my children was forced. They didn't have an option. It was either sink or swim. But and I feel like, you know, I could have been more there for them. But at the end, you know, they learned good things from the situation that they were in. And another thing that I think is very important is self-love and unselfishness. So in the sense, so for self-love, if you've got love for yourself, then you look at the way that people treat you, and you would think, you know what, I love myself too much to allow people to treat me the way that they do. So, and then together with that is unselfishness, but in the way, not unselfishness, not to be a doormat for other people, to know where's the boundaries. But with unselfishness, I think that makes the world so much better, because you don't just think of yourself, you think of your actions. Is that for the greater good of many other people, not just yourself? So I'll stand with that for today.
Great, thanks, Ella. Some excellent thoughts there. All right, Master, let's come across to you next.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's quite a broad topic. People are taking it from different angles, and maybe it is because the topic is called life skills, and you start living at the age of 0, and throughout life, there are different skills that you acquire, and at your young age, there are skills that you acquire now. We are on virtual communication. We struggled with the skill of just getting into Zoom, for instance, which are the skills that we acquire to be able to cope with the pandemic called coronavirus. So we continue to learn different skills at different in phases of our lives, and also based on circumstances, how do you cope with the particular things. But core to me is what the interpersonal skills, how you relate with different people, because where you lack particular skills through networks and stuff like that, people can always help you, and we can always learn from other people. Having been a teacher, I have had this thing called life skills. People there, learners there were just coping skills on different things. At some stage, your computer skills were said to be a life skill that you need to know computer. But as you grow, you also start knowing that focus, the skills to focus and to plan. Those are essential skills, related to whether it's work or any other life coping mechanisms that you need. You need particular skills at different ages of your life, and given the particular circumstances, like the pandemic now is teaching us different things. We're learning. We never thought we will be speaking to Ed at this time of the, we had to learn to be able to be able to associate and relate with other people. If it was not this learning of these skills, I wouldn't have known you, Ivan, and everybody else on this particular platform. So we are taught skills by our colleagues and also by the people that we relate with. So yeah, they can be taught, skills can be taught. People can teach you particular skills. You know, you are given instruction, go to this button, go to follow this, follow that, and then I mean, later on in your life, you are able without any hazard.
Thanks, Master. Yeah, good thoughts there. So, right, Cecile, let's get across to you next.
Hi, yes, I agree with Lee. One of the essential life skills that anyone needs is to be able to communicate with people, actually to communicate your feelings with people, because that is so frustrating. And I find it, sorry guys, I'm not being sexist here, but I find that men, when it's difficult, when a lot of males, moms probably don't teach them the skill to have difficult conversations, because a lot of men, when the conversation becomes difficult and close to the bone, they want to walk away. They don't want to actually discuss the subject. I don't know many women. I actually don't know any woman that would just want to walk away when the discussion becomes difficult. Maybe I'm just lucky. So yeah, so that's the one skill that I think everyone needs to know. And the second skill is to take accountability of your actions, which kind of a little bit ties in with the first skill. And then my husband would laugh if he hears this, but I think that a life skill that every single person should have is the skill of punctuality. Because we can't do business without being punctual, because we've gone into this terrible spiral of people always being late. And I'm not even talking about 1 or 2 minutes late. I'm talking about an hour late for a meeting. Or I find it now, a Zoom meeting would be 7 o'clock or in the evening, and someone would arrive at 10 to 8. How do you think you're going to join a meeting if you arrive an hour late, for 45 minutes late for a meeting? So, and then just the last skill that I think that everyone should know is to look after your own health, to watch what you eat, how you live your life, because you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to the people that you work with, to be the most healthy person that you can be, not knowingly doing things to yourself that is going to undermine your health. I mean, there's enough health stuff around there without you causing them. And to just be aware that when you are doing things to your health, like eating sugar and stuff like that, that you are doing yourself a disservice and the people around you. That's me.
Great, thanks, Cecile. All right, let's get across to Donovan next. Donovan wants to unlearn, so I think it's a critical skill, actually, Donovan. So, yeah, your thoughts on that?
Morning, thanks, Ivan. Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a skill, but I struggle with actively listening, trying my best to work on it. I think that's an essential skill.
Ooh, Donovan, you're very faint again this morning, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm on my laptop. Let me try and speak louder. The skill to actively listen, that's what I'm struggling with. And I think it's an essential skill because your ability to listen helps you to learn. So if you don't listen, then you can't learn. That's why I believe it's essential. I hope you heard that.
Great, thanks, Donovan. Yeah, I agree. The ability to listen, as you say, actively is a critical skill in my book, anyway. So thanks for that. So right, Jeffrey, let's get across to you.
Yeah, morning, everyone. It's kind of been quite interesting listening to the moms and dads that you know, with children and you know, bestowing sort of skills and responsibilities onto children. Now, I don't have any of those, so obviously, you know, the only person that I would need to ultimately get well prove your skills is myself. I do find as you get a little bit older, it becomes a little bit more tricky. The chaps were mentioning this morning about platforms and learning how to do this stuff. Yeah, I do kind of have difficulty doing that sometimes with a bit of frustration, not quite understanding or understanding the logic of platforms. I mean, I need to figure out now how to join WhatsApp Business. Somebody said it might be a good platform and something I should start to use. So yeah, I was on the net yesterday trying to figure out how to do it. So yeah, learning can often be difficult. And of course, with myself being rather retarded in the reading and writing department, that certainly amplifies the challenges. I ultimately always have to be shown how to do it. Giving me words on paper or words on a screen, that generally isn't very helpful. So yeah, I suppose we all do have different challenges when it comes to learning, but yeah, interesting topic this morning. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I think you raise an important point there. You know, all of us learn in different ways, and one of the keys, obviously, is to find out the person you're trying to assist in whatever way it is, how they learn best, and then you know, leverage that to the learning experience. Because yeah, we don't all learn the same way, and I think that's key. So Ed, over to you. I think for some final thoughts before we wrap up this morning.
Thank you. Yeah, a really interesting topic this morning. I think one of the skills I need to develop is multitasking, because I was trying to listen to the speakers and also read what was going on in the chat, and I couldn't do both at the same time. Trevor, I think an oxymoron is someone that's breathing. And I think before you can discuss life skills, really, you need to understand, I think, what you mean by life. Because people lead different lives, and for different lives, you need different skills. If I think about my two daughters, they are both entirely different people. They pursue different careers. One's living overseas, working for a multinational environmental charity. The other one that has moved about 3 miles from where she used to live, works for a small local firm, and all she wants to do is settle down and buy a house. And actually, she gets a house on the 11th of next month. So yeah, they both needed different skills. And then I thought about a lady I met in Tanzania. She was from the UK, and we both worked for the same charity. And she was really comfortable going to different countries, meeting with different people, being a woman on her own in a strange environment. Tanzania is a male-dominated environment, but she coped well there. And as she progressed through the organisation, I thought she'd make a fantastic chief executive, but she was useless in the boardroom. She didn't come across at all well in the boardroom. So those were the skills she needed, whereas the skills I needed was to actually be quite comfortable going to strange places and getting on with all sorts of people. So I think we all need different skills. And then, does it matter sometimes if we're lacking in some skills? Because Lee mentioned about difficult conversations, and I remember a very difficult conversation I had on a charity break I was on. I went on a training course with a few people, and one of them was a young woman of about 21 who had Asperger's, and that affected how she interacted with people. But she was a fantastic, enthusiastic, wonderful person, and I really hoped that when we got paired up, I got paired up with her, which happened, and it was great because, yeah, communication with her sometimes was difficult, and she had no filters, I think is the word. So she would say things that, you know, whoa. And then a year later, I went on another break, and she was there as well with another woman. And the other woman was a very successful teacher, all that sort of stuff. And she couldn't cope with the Asperger's person being quite blunt. So I think actually some of the life skills I think we should have is agility, so we can cope with all sorts of different situations and all sorts of different people. Because actually the teacher had a really good go at the person with Asperger's and really upset her. And then I had to have that difficult conversation about saying, come on, to this woman who was a teacher of my age, you know, you've really got it wrong there and you need to apologize. So we need agility, acceptance of others, acceptance of different situations. And I think somebody mentioned it, I think it was Cecile, accountability, to realize that actually when we take an action, we should be accountable for what happens and realize what happens. So I think, yeah, for me, agility, acceptability, and accountability. And just one thing that Cecile mentioned it about men. I always love it when women have a go at men, because we spend the first part of our life totally dominated by a woman, our mother. We are free for a couple of years, and then we get entangled with another woman, our wife. So we spend almost all our life dominated by a woman. So don't moan how we turn out. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Thanks, Ed. I know why I left you until last. So, Cecile, you're going to have to run away from that one, I'm afraid. So, yeah.
So blame your mom, Ed. Blame your mom if you walk away from trouble.
Okay, wonderful.
Luckily, I can take it, Ed.
Yeah, and Ed is far enough away, so you can't get taken out by a karate kick. Yeah. All right, fantastic. Thanks, folks. Yeah, I think it's been a very interesting discussion, and I think Donovan touched on one of the key things for me is, you know, if people can learn to listen and listen well and not overreact, as Ed was saying, you know, in his example of a situation, if you can listen and take a few breaths before answering, I think it often makes for a much better conversation and learning process. So that for me is, I think, in its simple essence. So listen, breathe 1, 2, 3, think a little bit, and then maybe answer. Don't just dive in straight away. So yeah, my thoughts. Lee, over to you. What's on the cards for tomorrow?
You know, sometimes I sit here and I it's easy for me to pick up a theme and move on. And then sometimes I think, I don't know whether it's my brain or whatever the case may be, but I'm not sure about tomorrow. And I'm just wondering whether we kind of just have a fun Friday and just talk about, you know, what are you doing for fun? You know, we've been thinking deeply, and, you know, it's good. And I'm glad we have these conversations. In fact, I'm not glad, I'm thrilled, because they are stimulating and amazing. But I'm just thinking, maybe let's just have a bit of fun. I know there's a lot of fun happening behind the scenes on the chat, but maybe we can all join in a little bit. So what are you doing just to keep things light at the moment? What are you doing that's just, yeah, fun? What's fun? What's fun for you at the moment? And I'll tell you, I'm actually, and it's not fun at all, I'm afraid, but I am going to Pietermaritzburg. It's for those of you who don't know, it's about a 5-hour drive from Joburg, leaving early tomorrow morning for my husband's aunt's funeral. She was 95. So talk about a generation, and she's the last of that generation to have passed on. So we are celebrating the end of an era, and but I will still be joining us via my phone. So I'll be in the car, so long as there's some kind of signal, I'll be able to join. So let's talk about fun tomorrow.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Lee. Yeah, drive safe, and yeah, sounds like a good thing to celebrate. 95 years is a very good inning. So fantastic to hear those stories as well. So drive safe, and we'll hear you on the road, hopefully. So otherwise, we'll have lots of fun. So enjoy your day, everybody, and we'll see you in the morning. Go well.